Hey everybody, happy Monday. I am back on the patio for this update this week. I've got Zoe right there, and we got Cleo, right back there. And I am giving you an update this week, and it's going to be brief because I just did a more robust update on Friday with all the detailed information, but of course things have changed since Friday, so here is the latest. So our CMI this week is at 510.4. So it's gone up yet again this week, not surprising. Our supply is down 77% at 23.4, and our demand is 19% above normal. But that has dropped quite a bit. So if we look back at December, our supply was actually as high as 35% just in December, not that long ago. And it's since come down to 19%. So demand, did I say supply? I may have said supply. I meant demand. Demand has dropped from 35% in December to about 19% now. And so that's a drop of about 16% in 3 months. And one thing that's interesting to think about is that if we continue on this path, we're going to get into a normal range of demand in probably 4 to 6 months. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens. Interest rates went up last week, so that's certainly a factor in demand starting to slow down a little bit. So if that comes down, closer to zero in a more normal range of demand, we'll see how that affects things. The last time that demand was above normal and then came down below normal or to the normal range, our supply also went up at that same time to meet demand. So that could be some good news if you're a buyer out there hoping to find a house and supply is super low right now. Maybe you will have some luck if demand starts to go down and our supply rises to meet that, if we do the same thing as we did in 2018. Also, something else to think about, people continue to ask about forbearance and how that might affect our market. And right now, the forbearance was extended another 3 months, so we have some time until we'll really know what happens there. But it is possible that in 3 months, we will see some pre-foreclosures, which would increase our inventory. I think that if that does happen, it will go away rather quickly, and it's not going to be, a huge spike where we'll have a surplus of supply by any means, but it might help our inventory a little bit. So that's just another potential if you are a buyer and trying to find something now and it is not so great. It's possible that in a few months we'll see some pre-foreclosures coming up, and or supply going up for other reasons. So I don't know, we'll see. Can't predict anything, but that's some points that have been discussed lately. Let's see, what else do I have for you? At least 40% of sales in the 400,000 range and below are closing over the asking price. So if you bought a house or if you're looking at a house under 400,000, 40% of closings are going over the asking price or the listing price. So that's something good to know. And our days on market went down once again. We are now at 5 days on market, down from 6 days on market last week. And that's the median days on market. One thing I mentioned, I think in my video on Friday, and if not, I'm going to mention it now, is that days on market, in my opinion, is very skewed. There are many listings that do sell in the first day, but we leave them active through the weekend to have showings and then review offers at the end of the weekend. So really, if you were to accept or consider the first offer that came your way as a seller, you'd really only be on the market one day, probably just hours, to be honest, but they do leave them active for the weekend to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to see them. So truly that day on market statistic, I think, should be lower in my opinion, but I see why we have it at 5. Makes sense when you're counting all those days throughout the weekend, and that's truly what is actually active until it goes pending. So, but that's just my little 2 cents on that. But anyway, I hope you're here in Phoenix, you're enjoying this beautiful weather, and if you're not, I hope you're planning on moving here to enjoy this beautiful weather. If you have any questions, you know where to find me, and I'll be back next week with another update. Have a great week.